Call the meeting to order tonight for the City of Saratoga Springs, Tuesday, August 15th, 2023 at 6 o'clock p.m. Present tonight, I have Councilman Karn, Councilman Porter, Councilman Wilden, Councilman Podeska, and Councilman McComber will be joining us shortly. So we do have a quorum. Councilman Karn will be giving us our invocation, and Councilman Porter will then lead us in our pledge.
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful that we can gather here as a community and make decisions that affect us. And Father, we pray that as we do so, we'll have discernment and be guided, and that we can make decisions that are good for our residents today and into the future. Father, we are grateful to live in this country and give thee thanks, and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to table item 5 tonight. We'll go to public input. Time has been set aside for the public to express ideas, concerns, and comments for subject matter not listed on the agenda. Please avoid repetitive comments. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. This is not a time for dialogue. It's a time to share input. We will open up the mic for public input at this time.
Steve Russell, 1542 West Quail Hill Road in Saratoga Springs. I provided you each with a handout. I don't know if you can see it there. Page 1 is a map, and if you hold it so that the blue line, which is Saratoga Boulevard, is on the bottom, that would be the correct orientation. So you'll notice, looking at the map, that Mount Saratoga Boulevard goes north. That's on your left side, and it goes up, and then it hits this gray line. That's Quail Hill Road that I live on. And it heads east to your right, and then turns right on Midland, and makes a left on Fairfield, and then heads west and joins up with Foothill. Before I explain the problem, I want to reassure you that our proposal tonight will cost you nothing, so you can relax. Here's the problem. Until August of '22, Fairfield Road was closed, preventing access between the two neighborhoods. Lexington Green is to the east on Fairfield, and the Quail Hill subdivision is west on that gray road, Quail Hill. Since the road was open in August of last year, there was this route from Quail Hill over to Midland and over to Fairfield has become a collector road for commuters to our northwest and to our west, and coming all the way from Eagle Mountain. And the reason they're doing this, of course, is to avoid that train wreck, which is called the intersection of Saratoga, Redwood Road and Pony Express. They also want to avoid the light, which you turn left on Foothill to go to Salt Lake. So they come through our neighborhood. There's about 2,000 cars that come through the neighborhood every day now, and it's a thoroughfare. Over a third of them are speeding. The neighborhood is teeming with young children. Many of the parents are so terrified they don't let their kids outdoors. And for those who do walk to school, they haven't a choice but to endure the traffic. Those children who do play outside, learning to ride a bike, for example, are in grave danger. We have several parked cars that have been hit by the commuters. And if they can't see the cars, they can't see the kids, and it's just a matter of time before someone is killed. The city has performed a study. They've installed stop signs and deployed officers to give tickets. The commuters speed right through and pass the officers along the way. The city doesn't have enough officers or resources to solve the problem in our neighborhood. You've got to deploy the officers throughout the city. We understand that. Page 2 is a score for prioritization. Some of you or all of you may find this important or crucial. As you can see, we've got 41 points is enough for action. By the way, I've not been elected. My neighbor, Brad Taylor, has canvassed the neighborhood. We don't know of anybody in the neighborhoods, either one, Lexington Green or Quail Hill, that objects to this. If they're here, maybe they can let us know. But everybody's pretty well united in both neighborhoods. So here's our proposal. At the corner of Midland and Fairfield, so following that gray line from the left, that's Quail Hill. It turns right on Midland and goes south, and then it turns left and goes east on Fairfield. Right at that corner of Midland and Fairfield, There is, on the west side of the sidewalk, a bike path. Blocking the bike path is about a 20-foot-long concrete barrier to keep cars from entering onto the path. There's another one at the west end of that bike path. We've proposed simply moving that concrete barrier just to the east on Fairfield Road, blocking the road, so as to return it to its prior condition of August of last year. This solution will cost nothing, and it will probably save the life of a child. It's temporary as well. Long-term, you'll see Mount Saratoga Boulevard running north. That's the blue line from Pony Express. It runs north. That's going to connect. It's going to go over the top, and it's going to end up connecting to Highway 73, Corey Ride Boulevard. And that's going to provide a much better access for all those commuters. And they won't be interested in our neighborhood again, we hope. Fire and Rescue Chief Campbell has been consulted. He has no objection to this plan. This is the way it was last year, and it doesn't really provide any problems for first responders. It's been timed. And now I began by reassuring you this wasn't going to cost you anything. If this is all you do, that's true. If you're feeling generous, it would be great to install 3 no through traffic signs. 2 on the west entrance of the Quail Hill neighborhood. You see there's Quail Hill Road, that gray line, and then below that Stonegate. Some of the commuters go into Stonegate. And then another one to the east of the Lexington Green, where Lexington Green meets Foothill. That way we can avoid the commuters entering the neighborhood, getting halfway there and finding out there's a blockage, and then speeding through our neighborhood with road rage on their way out. Also, wide-angled speed bumps would be great, like the ones you've installed in the Saratoga neighborhood along the lake west of the temple. So that's our proposal. Any questions? Thank you.
Yes, Councilman Carn?
I just want to point out that the city did not install any speed bumps in that neighborhood. That's a private neighborhood, and that neighborhood installed the speed bumps by the HOA. So when they're private streets, they can manage their streets how they want.
Okay. Anybody else for public input?
Darrell Wendell, 908 West Fairfield Road. A couple things on Lexington Green. There's an irrigation system that I use, which is on the west end, the entrance, the water comes in. That house, the driveway borders the grate on that irrigation system. I've addressed the city about 4 years ago with a email, telling them all the things that needed to be repaired in Lexington Green as far as the irrigation system. They did put a grate over that ditch, but that's not the problem there. That irrigation is right next to their driveway. I happened to be over there one day when the twins, I can't remember who lives there, one of the twins walked over to the irrigation. I was using it, and yeah, we about had a fit because she was going right in it. We did put a piece of wood over the top of that so that the kids wouldn't accidentally fall in there, because that's right off the driveway, and that needs to be fixed. Someone is going to get hurt, and it'll be fatal. A kid could fall in there, and that's it, they're gone. And what I propose is elongating that ditch, going up and then putting the fence clear across the front, and then going to the west with that fence to prevent any kids going into that irrigation ditch. That's pretty important. Then a couple other items. He's covered the road real well. Jake brakes in our city. We used to have enforced no Jake brakes on the trucks. It's ridiculous. I'd like to get that back. And then the illegal exhaust systems. We have the worst pollution anywhere here. And then now that the safety's gone, all these people have altered their systems, taken their mufflers off, creating a ton of pollution and noise, and maybe you could look at that. Thank you. Any questions on that? Okay.
Howdy. Thank you for your time, gentlemen. I wanted to emphasize what that gentleman right there just said. It was awesome. We have a 9-year-old that we live at 106 Midland Drive, and he's very active. He rides his bike, and we're outside people, so we're always in the yard doing yard work or washing, waxing cars. And he is absolutely right. And when cars park on the side and someone's coming down the street, you couldn't see a kid come out of a driveway. Before you know it, he'd be hit and injured severely, and worse yet, be killed. So I just wanted to say that whatever we can do to avoid that situation, because it's not if, it's when someone's going to get hurt, and it's probably going to be one of our children. And I have some great neighbors, they have children too. And we've all talked out in the yards, and we're all in agreement that if we could bypass people coming down Midland Drive that don't live on Midland Drive, that would be absolutely awesome. And again, it's a safety thing. It's for our children. And we prayed at the beginning, and when we pray, my first thought is always about our children and protecting our kids, and I will do that till hell freezes over. So thank you. I appreciate your time, and God bless, by the way.
Hi, my name is Sheena Devi, and I'm at 927 West Fairfield Road. Would it be appropriate for me to ask who's here by raise of hands for this issue, just so you can see how many people are in support of this? Raise your hand if that's why you're here tonight. It's important, and as a community, we have sent out letters with each other to make it known to you guys that this is a problem. Last week, my kids were playing basketball in the driveway. Our ball went out. My kids are really good. I've stressed not going in the road. They're kids. I don't plan on them making perfect judgment every time. My kids did stop, but the car coming down, rather than stopping as a ball crosses the road, decides to swerve around it. I've watched a car nearly hit my neighbor Daryl as he's with his farming equipment there. I also see cars passing others who are going the speed limit. I want to reiterate that at one point, our neighborhood was approved to be there. We are a family neighborhood. Our roads need to be made 25 miles an hour, which they are, but people aren't following that. We are scared for our children. Please do what needs to be done to protect them and give us a safe neighborhood that was approved. Thanks.
Anybody else for public input?
Hi, my name is Julian Johnson. I live at 1738 North Oakwood Lane. I just wanted to comment on this development plan on 1751 North Redwood Road, specifically just that it's connecting into Western Hills Drive. Kind of similar line of concern as these folks have with their issue as well. We're a new neighborhood. We're just trying to get established, and now we're having this proposed road coming into our neighborhood. We're very concerned about safety going forward, and seeing that it only attaches to Redwood and our street, and then there's another third exfil point just next to the entrance off of Redwood Road, or that's proposed. We are concerned that people are just going to want to get away from Redwood Road, come through our neighborhood, and you look at the map, at the roads around the area, it's not really set up to have easy flow of traffic out of the neighborhood. So we're not opposed to the development. We're glad to see it there. We just would prefer that the road not be connected. Or if it is connected, we would love to see some speed bumps, no parking signs along this road, because I can see how the parking lot may get filled and maybe they spill into our neighborhood, which we don't really want that to happen either. I also was thinking maybe we could just connect the road and maybe add some bollards there. So if it's a fire department requirement, maybe that's a good compromise so that we can still get fire access to the property. Also, I was just wanting to, sorry, never done anything like this before, so a little nervous. Yeah, thanks. We're also concerned about the light situation in that neighborhood. As it is right now, it takes a very long time to get onto Redwood Road, so I often bypass and go about the roundabout. I'm still kind of new to the area, so I don't know all the street names. So getting to work just getting onto Redwood, you're sitting there 5-6 minutes. When you put this business in, if there's not a light somewhere in there, like it's gonna take a long time to get onto Redwood and get where we need to go. Yeah, but that's all I had to say. If there's any questions for me, thanks.
Jeremy?
In response to that, I just wanted to, some of you may be aware, UDOT is actually designing that signal at Aspen Hills and Redwood currently. Costs have increased beyond the current budget. I think they're going back to the Transportation Commission to request funding so that they can get this out to bid and constructed. So as far as we're aware, this is near the top of the list of one of the next lights that will be built once they can get that additional funding they need.
So they're aware of it and working on it?
Yeah, the signal at Redwood and Aspen Hills Boulevard.
With the timing issue, Jeremy, is there a timing? Is it next spring? Is it this fall?
I would assume sooner. So I
This construction
think it
season?
would have been out to bid imminently had they not been over budget.
Okay,
The only delay now is I think they're going to go to the next Transportation Commission meeting, which is held monthly.
okay.
And we expect that will get approved. It's not a huge request, and so
Do you know, is the conduit in the ground for that?
for the signal, no.
They're gonna have to open Redwood for that? They'll bore it? Okay,
But though, yeah, there will be traffic impacts
Okay.
during construction. So I would expect to see construction begin as early as the end of this year and hopefully completion by early next year
okay.
of that signal.
Okay.
However, Jeremy, the traffic lane, there will be an additional right lane built into this project, so the asphalt will be the guiding factor on that one. If they can get that in before winter, yes. So that would be the one constraint. Yes, we do hope that they will get going on it, but whether they can get that done before the asphalt plant closes the issue. Southwest lane, yeah.
Any other public?
My name's Chris Groneman, 112 West Beechwood Drive. Again, on the Stevenette development issue. If the council is to approve the rezoning, which I don't think anybody in our community is opposed to, we would just ask that potentially some covenants and restrictions are required from the developer, limiting high-intensity use businesses. I think that would be a reasonable compromise. We are concerned about the additional traffic that will be created. There may be nothing that can be done about the egress into Western Hills Drive. However, just to reiterate what Julian said, we'd love to see some speed bumps, some signs go in potentially if that were to be the case. A better option would be maybe not directing things into Western Hills Drive, but glad to hear about the light. Would that be Aspen Hills Drive? Is that? Yeah, okay, great. That was the only other comment that I kind of wanted to make, but thank you.
That's a UDOT project, not a city project.
Any other public input? Okay. Seeing none, I will close the public input portion at this time. Reports from the council. Councilman Carn.
Mayor, we met with Utah Lake Authority yesterday, and Congressman Burgess Owens talked about a lot of unique opportunities that the federal government may have to participate with the ULA, and I've passed that on to staff to investigate, and so more to come.
Okay. Councilman Porter.
Myself and Councilman McComber, as well as city staff, were there today for the ribbon cutting at Jimmy John's. It's always great to see new businesses opening up in our city. And I'm particularly excited about Jimmy John's because it's one of my favorite places to eat. So I'm sure I will be quickly adding a few inches to my waistline.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, perfect. Administration, Mark?
No updates at this time, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Department reports were in the packet. We are tabling item 2 on the consent items, but I will entertain a motion for item 1 and 3.
Move to approve consent items 1 and 3 on the agenda with all findings and conditions in the staff report.
I have a first from Councilman Carn, a second from Councilman Porter. Any further discussion? Carn?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Podeska?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Has Michael joined us?
No, Kevin had a comment on item number 2.
Yes.
So, just waiting for Mike to turn on. Basically, what happened with this was BAI was basically negotiating the reimbursement agreement on behalf of Oakwood Homes. Not sure why they were doing that. I wasn't sure who was actually signing the reimbursement agreement. And so I didn't know any better, but it turns out Oakwood's attorney was not comfortable with the reimbursement agreement. Instead, if you remember, about a year ago, we brought another reimbursement agreement for Oakwood Homes for the Wander project. And he would recommend, he wants basically the city to pass an amendment to that reimbursement agreement rather than a new reimbursement agreement. And I said, are you sure? I mean, sure you don't want to consider this new reimbursement agreement? And he's pretty adamant that he just wants an amendment. So rather than approve this entire new agreement, I think it would be appropriate for the council to authorize staff, basically approve this item, we can pull it off the consent agenda, and approve it on the condition that instead of it be a whole new reimbursement agreement, that it just be an amendment to the previous reimbursement agreement that we entered into about a year ago, if that makes sense.
It does.
And this is kind of, as you know, this is solving one of the problems in the north portion of the city with sewer capacity. And so my recommendation is to go ahead and approve it with that condition, and then staff can basically negotiate the amendment.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll move to approve consent item 2 with the change that we amend the existing reimbursement agreement from last year, referenced by city attorney, and not negotiate a new reimbursement agreement.
Second.
I have a first from Councilman Carn, a second from Councilman Wilden. Any further questions? Podeska?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Carn?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Business item 1.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Speaking, let's see if we can get this. Will you put the cable? So what we have before you is the Hidden Landing subdivision preliminary plat. This is located at 1200 North and Sage Hill Drive up by the fire station. And it consists of R110 zoning and one lot that's in RR1. And then the general plan is a rural residential. This has 30 lots, sorry, that's a typo. It's 29 lots are in R110 and one lot is in the RR zone. In order for them to have contiguous, and I know this is kind of twisted because it's a long, skinny subdivision, the reason that they needed that one lot in the RR1 zone is because they had to have contiguous connection to their open space, and therefore they had to create that. Now, eventually they are going to seek a rezone when they're wanting to, which will further change some of that. But currently, that's how this subdivision sits. Landscaping, as you can see, there's a playground here at the north end, and then from Talus Ridge, the Talus Ridge subdivisions, the trail goes all the way to the city bike park and makes that connection of one of our trails. As you can see here to the south or to the side there are 2 connection trails within the subdivision. There's one between Sage Hill and Coyote Creek Road, and then there's one from Coyote Creek into the bike park. And so they will be making that connection down. There's a little pavilion there in the bike park, so they will be making that path continue down into that path and that pavilion that's right there in the bike park. With that, planning staff recommends approval, and our planning commission recommends approval with the findings and conditions in the staff report.
Okay, any questions from the council? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve business item 1 as stated on the agenda, including all staff findings and conditions.
I'll second.
I have a first from Councilman Wilden, a second from Councilman Porter. Any further discussion? Karn?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Podeska?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We have the code amendment, Title 19.12.09.
All right, this is in regards to the subdivision vacating and amending plats. As you know, our plats we don't allow for a residential, or we don't allow for our current plats to be split. So we recognized an issue with this and had brought it, and it's talked about it with the Home Depot site, or not the I shouldn't say the Home Depot site. It's Saratoga Springs Commercial Plat F. We had done several different variations of that, and there's other places as well that we've talked about this with, and they wanted to create a lot and then re-subdivide it or do a plat amendment. And under our current code, they're not allowed to do that. Therefore, we're proposing that the standards for commercial subdivisions allow for that to be allow for a plat amendment to split lots, to create additional building lots. So the language there in your staff report. And then the second part of this is just the cleanup from some of the language that LUDMA sent down or the requirements from legislation. With that, staff recommends approval. Planning Commission recommends approval.
So my only question is, if we allow for commercial plats to be dividing, and it's not gonna change any densities, it allows for a developer to come in and
Right,
do another piece of that development.
for commercial lots only.
Yeah, okay.
So this is just allowing for further commercial growth. That rather than having to vacate a plat and then go through and create a new subdivision out of that lot, this just streamlines that process for them.
Councilman Podeska?
Yeah, question on the process. So when they do that, does it go through the planning commission again?
For that, plat amendments generally don't, but that's something we can definitely look at and review.
Yeah, I'm just not aware of like situations where it might change the project dramatically if they're doing a lot of fighting or.
Not a lot. I mean, usually commercial subdivisions try to utilize all of their property. We just had this instance where they wanted this big portion. They weren't sure who was going to go there yet. And so they wanted to be able to subdivide or do a plat amendment, and it didn't make it very easy for them to do that. They'd have to go through a huge process. They got it to where they needed it eventually during that time period, but just looking forward as commercial growth happens, this allows that to happen.
Okay.
Okay. I will entertain a motion.
I'll move approval. There we go. Of business item 2 as stated on the agenda, including staff findings and conditions. Sorry for the delay.
Okay.
I'll second
I had
that.
a first from Councilman Wilden, a second from Councilman Podeska. Any further discussion? Karn?
Aye.
Podeska?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Item 3.
Okay, council, you've already heard some comments from the public in regards to this proposed general plan amendment and rezone. Just go through the basics of this and ask questions as you may have them. So basically, we have current zoning on the property, which is about 5 acres. The front 2 acres approximately is the regional commercial, and the back 3 is business park. They would like to have the entire piece go to regional commercial. This was before the Planning Commission recently. They recommended in a split vote to approve this request, and a neighborhood meeting was held on August 7th. So when the map here shows the acreage, the blue is the piece that is being requested to be both general plan amended and rezoned. And there is a concept plan attached to this, shows the conceptual development plan. They have provided quite a bit of detail on that in preparation for an eventual site plan. So there's information in regards to the zoning comparisons between business park and regional commercial. A lot of it is overlapping, but then there is more intensive commercial uses, of course, in the regional commercial that would be permitted that is not in the business park. And therefore, their request, they have looked at, as part of their development, a recreational facility, which would not be business park zone, but which could be permitted in a regional commercial. So that is kind of what has instigated this. There may be other reasons, but let's see, I'm trying to push that forward. Is there something we need to do? I'm sorry. Okay. So there's a chart of zoning comparisons. The minimum development size, the setbacks, all the other zoning requirements between the two, showing the differences. Some are not significant, some might be. Maximum height in a business park is taller than the regional commercial, but then as shown here, there's some notable permitted uses in the regional commercial that are not permitted in the business park, such as automobile uses, commercial recreation, drive-through grocery store, commercial kennel, laundromat, plant and tree nursery, recreational center, which is one that they want to do, funeral home, indoor shooting range, animal hospital, veterinarian clinic, and dwellings above commercial. So that's probably a significant thing to look at as far as impacts or uses that will be possible. The rest here is in regards to possible motions in the staff report, and also here are two possible motions for approval, then also a possible motion for continuance and one for denial. We had a little bit of wires crossed in our preparation of these potential motions, and in reality, there's only one that we would recommend as far as an approval motion should the council decide to approve it, and that would be attaching the conditions of a development agreement to this. Of course, there is a possible motion you can make without that, but otherwise, the real difference is that we would recommend, if you should desire to approve it, a development agreement. And I'll go through the conditions that would be attached there. All other code requirements, of course. Rezone and general plan amendment will not go into effect until a mutually agreed upon development agreement is approved and signed. And general plan and rezone ordinance is also approved and signed by City Council. Development agreement shall address access to adjacent sites to allow for through access between abutting sites and subdivisions, such as between Sergeant Court and Aspen Hills Boulevard. No housing density will be allowed per a development agreement. Permitted uses may be limited by the City Council through a development agreement. See pages 4, 5, 6 of the staff report. And then any other conditions you may have. So it would be my recommendation that if there is concerns, we do not have a development agreement in place ready to go at this time. We did want to get your feedback on this, if this is something you would like to see, and if there is more you would like to see with that. In that case, I would recommend that we continue the item so that it can be brought back with a completed development agreement and ordinance ready for your approval.
Is the property owner here?
I believe they are.
Do you have anything you'd like to say before council discusses this, or if you want to come up to the mic?
I'm going to have Jared.
Okay. Yep.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. Jared Osmond, live in Sandy, Utah. Do you need my address?
No.
Okay. Just for reference, I'm not an owner on the property. I hope to be the general contractor on this and bring what I've done already in your city. I think we've built a great project over there across from the Costco gas station. We met with the neighbors. I thought it was a productive meeting. I want to do this, and again, I'm here in the role of a general contractor. If this gets approved, then I'll be the one building it, and I'll bring integrity to that as well. And so that's important to me that it's integral. So it's also important that we live up to our word for the things that the Stevenettes promised these folks, and we're happy to do that. I've heard they're not in opposition of changing the zone. I think it's a mistake to want more office when there's how many hundreds of thousands of feet in Utah vacant right now. It's a mistake. It works in the scenario if we have this as retail space, that we can still have medical office come in like we did over here. We had Spa Trouvé, Health, those people still come and work, and they actually work hand in hand with the retail component. So I'm hopeful that this is something that makes sense. I don't think the traffic counts personally will be any higher. In fact, I think in an office scenario, it could be higher. You get call centers and stuff like that that come in, or whatever the business practice may be. So I don't know if that's necessarily true. But again, the integrity that we want to bring to the table is that we totally agree with the neighbors that there needs to be some CC&Rs and a developer agreement. We would hate to see that hold up the progress at this point and push us back another month to get approvals, but we're more than happy to agree with that. And I'm representing the Stevenettes. Again, I'm not an owner. But I can tell you this, that we would love to see a list of people that couldn't be there. Sex shops, tattoo parlors, vape, that kind of thing. We don't want that in their neighborhood any more than I would want it in mine. We're happy to do that. If that's through a CC&R, through the plat, we have to implement that and record so that it follows any ownership from here on out. I think that's. And the developer agreement, of course, happy to do that. And we've worked through those with you before as well. So we're very excited about the project. I think the use makes sense. Retail will bring a much lower profile building too. That would help them as well. We certainly can work on the lighting effects. If there's any light issues they think they're going to have from the parking lot, we can make sure to position those correctly. But anyway, I wanted to represent that on behalf of the Stevenette family and the fact that if I'm building this, it's going to be done right. So.
Okay. Councilman Carn, do you have a?
Yeah, well, first of all, Mr. Brosman, I think you build great products.
Thank you.
I think you bring a lot of value to the city. So I don't have a problem with this rezone, and the regional commercial zone actually will keep a lot of the stuff you talked about out of this area. I do think that a development agreement is appropriate. There's so many can complies and do not complies in this packet that we need a development agreement to make sure we're covered. And I think there may be, frankly, some of the uses that are allowed in regional commercial that we want to probably look at and not put those in next to existing neighbors when we're doing a rezone. So that's what I'd be in favor of. I'm okay with the rezone. I think it actually helps the neighbors to not have 75-foot office buildings right next to their backyards, so it's good for them. And so I'm in favor of this with the development agreement. And I'm happy to work with staff on that to figure out what uses we want to take out of that zone to make it work for the surrounding neighborhood who's there today.
Councilman Wilden?
I have a lot of similar thoughts. Normally, I have no hesitancy of rezoning to regional commercial unless there's homes around it. I think we can get there. Some of the things, in the development agreement, I think would want to be specific to protect like the homeowners around there, like car washes.
Maybe commercial kennels.
Commercial kennels for some reason. There's kind of a litany of things in here. Because there's an in-between, like community commercial that we designed, like specific to fit within neighborhoods. I think we can get there with a hybrid. And then some of the other things I would ask whoever's working with staff to go through that, just to look at the setback table, because there are some significant differences. I don't know what that would do to your development, but.
The back buildings are actually just floating right now. We know what we want to do on Redwood Road. 3 buildings. They're kind of like what I've got over here now.
Yeah.
There's usually about 2 to 3 tenants in each one of their 5,000 square feet each. It works really well. And in the back, we're willing to shrink the buildings, make them, that the parking works. We're willing to do all of that.
Okay.
And we're certainly open to whatever you don't want there. We're totally fine with that.
No, and that's just my comments. If we could work on that through the development agreement, I don't know, like, I'm not an engineer or architect or whatever. I wasn't hired at all. I was elected, just to be clear. That came out wrong. But anyway, yeah, if we could go through that, I think this would be great. What?
It usually does.
Yeah, he usually comes out wrong, so.
Okay, Councilman Porter?
I would just say, yeah, I was looking through the list of uses just to look at the differences. Conveniently, I think most of the objectionable uses are on page 4 of the packet. Perhaps removing arts and crafts sales. I don't necessarily know that that's too objectionable, but yeah, I would, I think that we need to look at that closely. I mean, I'm just looking at here in the meeting, I haven't gone through with a fine tooth comb to make sure that we've gotten everything. But I think we definitely want to, where we're after the fact that, these people bought homes expecting a certain zone next to them. So if we're going to change that, we need to make sure that they're protected from the uses that the business park was meant to exclude. Which I think is the primary concern that I heard from the neighborhood, so.
Yeah, we agree.
Yeah, and I, just to end on that as well, I agree with everything that's been said. At first, I didn't want to lose the business zoning, but seeing how small it is, the only way they could go is vertical with all the parking. They'd have to go around it.
Exactly.
And so that would be a much taller structure there. So yeah, I'm good with it as well.
Okay, Councilman McComber?
Oh.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I was able to join in time to hear the presentation by staff, and I appreciate that. I think that, yes, there is an argument that there's a lot of office space in and around the area that isn't being used, but in Saratoga Springs, that's not the case. So I just get frustrated when people use absolutes and try and put that on to Saratoga Springs because we have very little to no open office space in the city. With that being said, I am supportive of this going to a regional commercial with the development agreement. And my one question I do have, and it's actually to the person representing the applicant, is there anything in particular that you have already talked to potential tenant that you're absolutely wanting or needing that might be of concern that we would want to understand or be aware of?
So we are currently marketing this, and we have lots of people knocking on our doors. And we're being very, very careful, obviously. And we don't know what this will end up. We really hope for this to pass because I think we'll bring amazing retail tenants. As far as the office component is concerned, we can still have office in this zone like we're doing in the other one. I still think it works, but you now have a much smaller footprint to do it in. So small office works. We have medical users that want it. But again, I don't want to just cornhole it into just a medical user for the rest of existence. I think that it's important that it has that flexibility with the development agreement that shows what's not permitted, that's what's not allowed. We are also, when we talked with the neighbors about this, just to kind of jump tracks a little bit, not opposed to putting in speed bumps if that's something the city will allow at this time.
Yeah, we don't really do that.
I didn't think so, but
Public roads,
we're
we don't
willing.
allow them, but
Okay.
if it's a private
development.
if it's a private development, that's up to you as the developer.
Well, we'll do it
yeah,
then.
for sure.
That's fine, we'll do it.
But
Yeah.
the question I have also is, I thought I heard, maybe I misheard it, but I am on a phone in the airport. But there's a desire for a recreational building.
Not anymore.
Is that what I heard?
No, we put that down. It's gone.
Okay.
It's gone, yeah.
Yeah, because I just think that this space that would, the amount of traffic, and we've had other residents concerned over
It would be a
that
mess.
kind of traffic. Yeah, because it can get pretty messy, and it's not the most ideal
Is that a use you
traffic
want to
area,
continue?
yeah, for that kind of traffic. So, okay, well, that's good. All right, well, we'll just then, so Mayor, I'll turn the time back over to you. Those are my questions, and thank you.
Okay, Councilman Wilden, you had one more comment?
No.
Then I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, just one
He had a quick
clarification.
question. So the clarification would be, you can only build what you can park. And in that zone, we'd have to have bigger parking than what would be an office. So there'd be more parking, would be pulled away, the setbacks would be further back. So as far as a recreational use, if there was something small scale, I don't know what that is, like
Competitive ping pong.
ping pong, axe throwing, I don't know. I don't know what that is. But I think that would work, and I don't want to exclude that. I just think we have to be careful instead of putting a big trampoline park next to the house, which was shot down. So we are concerned. We want this to be really high class, so, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll try it. I move that we approve business item 3 with all staff findings and conditions, including the requirement see.
It's in there.
Yeah, I know, but I want to add a little bit of clarity to it.
Okay.
Is it 3? Condition 3, that staff will work with council to identify the uses that we want to exclude from the rezone. Is there anything else I think that was the main concern, right?
Okay.
Councilman Carn offered, do we want to go ahead with that, or is there any other
Not as
direction?
part of the
Another-
motion.
2 of us.
Yeah, we'll do that later.
Yeah, I'm happy to help,
Yeah.
but the mayor can assign someone later.
I'll second the existing motion.
Okay.
So I believe Councilman McComber said he'd
Yeah,
help
we'll,
with that.
okay.
Let's finish the motion.
Yeah, I'm discussing.
Yeah. Okay. So we do have a whole lot of excitement. Perfect. Okay. Councilman Carn, you were good with that? Councilman
Yeah.
McComber? Staff?
Yes.
Okay.
The discussion, what we had talked about as staff was tabling the matter because there's other things that staff wanted to discuss, including what are we going to do about like the traffic that's obviously going to use this parking lot to cut through. There's all the Sergeant Court backup. That's just a mess. People don't want to turn left from the Sergeant Court area, so they're going to be driving through this commercial project. There's a lot of other things that we wanted to talk about as staff. So our recommendation, as Ken mentioned, was to table it, come back with the rezone ordinance and the development agreement together. But you can obviously do whatever you want. That's totally fine.
So can I?
Misunderstood the presentation.
Yeah, so
That's not what I heard in the
isn't
presentation
this
at
Not
all.
what I heard.
I heard that they were recommending
was-
approval.
there was a
the
little bit-
recommendation to table.
Recommending to table that, yeah.
We had a
Jessica?
staff report that was confusing.
So my question is that, because I mean, right now, this is just a concept plan that they've submitted, correct? And so this would just be a rezoning. The rezoning, is that contingent upon knowing how the traffic flow is going to be of a concept?
Will that be
So,
part of the
yeah,
master development
right
agreement?
now, sorry, Councilman McComber.
Sorry, I would just say that'd be part of the master development agreement. They'd have to be able to meet the traffic requirements, Councilmember Podeska. I'm just frustrated because I didn't hear that as the recommendation. I heard the recommendation there's a recommendation to approve with the master development agreement.
And if
But we
I
have a motion
understand-
on the table, so we have to vote on it, and then we can do something else if we need to.
What you're looking for is to move forward without pushing this off.
We are happy to adhere to any traffic suggestions that come down our way, even a traffic study from Hales and help with this. This is going to get developed regardless. You're going to have either business park or this whole thing be regional commercial. I think it makes a lot of sense because we can only, again, build what we can park. It is not going to stop these access points. They are all in stone. This is all that UDOT will give us. I would change it if I could. I can't. So that doesn't really slow it down. I'm happy to put speed bumps in. I'm happy to wall it off if I could. But whatever it is, we're willing to do. I just think we've been doing this for a year, trying to get this right, and we're happy to adhere. And I'll say that publicly. Whatever you need us to do, we'll do it.
I would just say, based on we're approving a general plan amendment, a rezone, and a concept plan. We're viewing a concept plan, not approving a concept plan. I feel like we can do that, and that the issues that staff has with the other factors can be addressed at a later time.
Yeah, that's my
Engineering.
My motion stands.
And it could be part of a master development agreement.
Yes.
If there was concerns like, hey, you got to address this traffic issue. So
Okay, I have a motion. Any further discussion on it? Councilman McComber,
Aye.
Podeska,
Aye.
Wilden.
Aye.
Porter.
Aye.
Karn.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
For your patience. And
No, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
with that, I will close the session and we will adjourn to the work session in 30 minutes.
Do have a close?
Do we have closed
Oh, do we
session?
have closed session? I thought you said no.
Okay.